Good day, everyone. Once again, I am Professor Rafsanjani Aqua, and I am your teacher in Propulsive Communication English 11. Okay, so last time we discussed about communication, the nature of communication, and other related factors or topic with regards to understanding the introduction to communication. And then also, we also discussed the factors that affects the communication. So regarding that topic, there are so many barriers that hinders the effectiveness of the message we send to the sender, and then therefore even the effectiveness of the feedback of the sender. There are many factors that will make it difficult for us to understand the message and to have mutual understanding. Remember, in order for you to make your message or communication effective one, you need to have a mutual understanding of what actually you meant in your message. Both the sender and the receiver should have the same understanding. That is when you could say that your communication is effective one. For today, our discussion will be about defining oral communication. Actually, there are different types of communication. Okay, you could have a written communication, reading, listening, that macro skills. We also have the oral communication. Okay, so how do you define oral communication? Okay, so now this is what it is. Before understanding further the oral communication, let us give a very good emphasis that great communication skills are your ticket to success in the academic and business world. Remember, in the corporate world or in the business world or even in the academic, okay, your communication skills are very important. That is a very big factor that will determine or that will measure you up on how good you are when it comes to expressing your thoughts, when it comes to you understanding the lecture of a teacher, okay, or how you deal with people. Okay? Because right after you graduate, sooner or later you will be seeking for a job or you'll be having your own business. And in order for that to be a successful one, you need to have a very good communication skills in all areas of listening, speaking, writing, and reading. But much more of the oral communication. Okay? But have you ever been overcome by fear or anxiety prior to going on a job interview or speaking in front of an audience? Okay, so that is a question. That is a question that you need to recall what should be your answer. Do you have any anxiety when it comes to your speaking skills? If you are on the job interview or when your teacher asks you to do the reporting, okay, do you have any hesitation because you are very nervous when it comes to expressing your thoughts or speaking in front? Okay, so actually, according to research, oral communication is a type of communication and a type of communication that is commonly, okay, or that is most difficult for students. Okay, we have written, we have listening, we have reading, but when it comes to speaking or oral communication, most of the times the students have difficulties on this. Not because they don't know anything, not because they are really not able to prepare for that day, but it was just that the students are afraid to speak up, to voice out their thoughts. Okay? So knowing when to choose oral communication and polishing your speaking skills can help you at every stage of your career. Again, it will help you at every stage of your career when you are always polishing and enhancing, developing your communication skills. Okay, so in the business world or when you have your job already or your career, it does not mean that the moment you were appointed or you are accepted for a job, then you have a very good communication skill. There are still process and rooms for you to improve day by day, professionally or even personally. Okay, so allow yourself every day to learn on how to enhance your communication skills, writing and speaking. Okay, but more of speaking. Oral communication now. Let us understand this. Oral communication is the process of verbally transmitting information and ideas from one individual or group to another. Again, you are transferring your message verbally. When we say verbally, you're opening your mouth, you're uttering words, okay? And then you send that to the receiver, whether that is individual, only one, or group to one another or to another. Oral communication can be either formal or informal. There are different contexts or scenarios wherein we could speak or we could have the oral communication, but in a different context. It depends upon the situations. Okay? Examples of informal oral communications include, okay, these are the informal, face-to-face conversation. This is so-called informal communication because we could utter any words. Okay, we could express our thoughts um, freely to someone, especially with a person we are comfortable with. Telephone conversations, informal communication skill or oral communication, discussions that take place at business meetings. Okay? More formal. Okay? More formal types of oral communication include presentations at business meetings. This is so-called formal because it is presenting a topic or a proposal wherein it involves a work, okay, or a project. Especially when you're in work, you're always expected to be formal at all matters, especially in your oral communication or presenting business meetings, okay? Classroom lectures, even this one, okay? Even this one, the lecture that we have pre-recorded is also a formal oral communication of me teaching you this lesson. Commencement speeches given at graduation ceremony, okay? Especially valedictory speech, okay, cum laude speech, summa cum laude speech, or any speeches in a formal gathering, welcome address, closing remarks, inspirational message, okay, and so on. Every speech that is crafted to a formal event is considered as a formal oral communication. Okay, I hope you're getting my point. With advances in technology, remember, again, we're already in the modern era. Most of the situations when we have our oral communication is we are using technology. New forms of oral communication continue to develop. This is true. Video phones, this is correct, okay? Video phones when we have our live, actually, okay? Or if you would like to talk with someone by means of using your devices, the messenger. So even if the person is so far away from you, through this video phone, you could do oral communication. You could speak, you could talk to that person. And video conferences, okay, for many people, especially when we have our live meeting, combine audio and video so that the workers in distant locations can both see and speak with each other. Okay, so this is very modern. This is very modern in the sense that even the person is so far from you, but there are still ways because of this technology. So in video phones or video conferences through the screen and the audio, you can see each other as if you're talking to a person that are actually in front of you. Okay. Other modern forms of oral communication include podcasts, which are the audio clips that you can access on the internet, okay, and voice internet protocol or VoIP, which allows callers to communicate over the internet and avoid telephone charges. Skype is an example of VoIP. Another example of VoIP is the Skype. Skype, the Yahoo Messenger, okay, that's before, And then now we have the Google Meeting. We also have the Zoom. So that is a very good example of a voice over internet protocol, or which allows us not to talk in front, in motion, live, even just fronting the screen. Okay, so basically this slide is speaking of the modernity of communication using oral communication skills. Now, what can you observe in the picture? So there's a thumbs up, there's also a thumbs down, which means there are pros and consequence, or advantage and disadvantage of the oral communication. Okay, of course, in different types of communication, I've mentioned earlier, there are so many types of oral communication, but there are good things about using that type of communication. There are also dilemmas or challenges along the way. So let's explore that. First are the advantages. What do you think are the advantages when we are in an oral communication? When we communicate with someone through speaking and not writing. What do you think are the advantages? Okay, so here we are. Number one, it is less expensive. This is true. Oral communication is less expensive because you will not be spending any amount, because the communication will be coming from you. You will just be opening your mouth with your thoughts, with your opinions, with your suggestions, with the information you knew. And then the moment you open your mouth and utter words, that is oral communication. And then you will not be spending so much of your money just for you to do that. Not unless you will be using devices such as your smartphones. So for you to communicate, you have to to load the mobile phone or the smartphone, okay, for you to have a video call or to call someone over a phone. So it is still needed to have your money involved in, but it will not you will not be spending so much of your money. Compared to the other one, this is less expensive. Okay. Second one, saves time. Why do you think so that when we are in an oral communication, it saves time? Okay, that's correct. It saves time because in an oral communication, the moment you think your idea about a certain thing, you will immediately talk and speak and share your opinion or share your thoughts. It will save time. Why? Because you will immediately share your thoughts. Compared to the written one, you need to spend time for you to think and then you write. Okay, and then there are some cases that you will crash your words because it does not fit your idea. Whereas in speaking, it's accessible. Okay, it's accessible in a sense that the moment the person will ask you a question, you could answer it at any time. Okay, you could answer it immediately right after the person asks you the question. So it saves so much of your time. Okay, compared to the written one. With the written one, you have to write. Sometimes you need to still print it to send it to someone, and then not immediately the person could read your letter. So it will consume so much of time. Compared to the oral communication, you could speak to someone immediately. Okay, or straight. Another one, immediate feedback. Okay, this is one of the advantages of the oral communication because right after you send a message to someone, you can have an immediate feedback, especially if it is a live communication. Okay, if you talk to someone, happy birthday. So you will not be waiting so much of your time for them to reply compared to when you are in a chat box. Okay, when you are in chat box, when you send a message, sometimes it takes 2 days, 1 week, or sometimes you will not be getting any feedback because the person was not yet able to read your message. Whereas in oral communication, right after you utter your words, the person could respond. Whether that's a non-verbal communication or verbal communication, still there is an immediate feedback. Because again, your sender is very accessible at any point. They could answer your message. Okay? Another one, personal contact. This is true. In my opinion, among all the advantages of oral communication, this is what I like. Why? Because when you communicate with someone through your personal contact or physical presence in front of you, it's much more sincere. it is much more felt. The messages are much more felt with sincerity. You could actually uh, straight gauge the sincerity of someone when they speak. You could actually measure directly if the someone is telling the truth or not, because you could see them while they are uttering their words. You could see them in motion. Okay, you could see them in motion. How do they actually do their how do they actually express, okay, their message? How do they move? How what are the get gestures that they use? So from then on, it is much more engaging, at the same time more personal. Okay, so we have other type of communication, but oral communication is much more personal contact, because again, you are directly speaking to someone in front of you, especially if you're not using any devices. Okay, personally, try to compare if someone will have, or it's your birthday. Okay, for example, it's your birthday, and then most of your friends greeted you online. Okay, they posted happy birthday on your wall. Okay, and then compare friends that greeted you personally, which is much more sincere. Okay, I bet you will answer the personal contact, because you will much more feel the sincerity of someone greeting you a happy birthday when you see them. When you see them, and then, I mean, the presence, the physical presence of someone has so much to do when it comes to feeling or understanding the sincerity and what is meant by their message. Okay? That is what's good about oral communication compared to the written one when it comes to personal contact. Again, personal or in oral communication, they are much more engaged with the speaker, which is actually good. Another one, useful in difficult situations. This is true. Why do you think so? It is useful in difficult situations because in difficult situations that requires you immediate response or immediate solution, wherein you need to solve that one, or to look for any person to talk with. When you are using oral communication directly, you could do something. You could always do something at any point to look for people, to communicate with people, to speak with people in in direct situation, because you are there. Okay, the only thing you need to do is to speak and to do something. It is very useful in difficult situations. For example, if you have a problem and if you would like to address it to teacher, for example, it is much more useful when you do the oral communication. You go in their office and then you say something about your concern. You address your concern. Whereas if you only chat them, okay, that's actually a written communication, chatting to someone. If you chat them, it is not that useful, because first and foremost, not all the time could the teachers or the receiver could read your message. Sometimes it takes time, and then you could not get immediate feedback. Okay, whereas in difficult situations, okay, it's much more demanding of the presence of someone to solve the problem. Okay, using the communication skills in oral. Another one, cooperative spirit. Okay, cooperative spirit means you could assess more the cooperation of your members when you are in oral communication. Okay, just like groups. Okay, groups wherein it requires you to have time for you to prepare, and then if you only do chat, okay, it's difficult for you to gauge their involvement with your group compared to the oral communication. Because if you are seeing them personally and you do the oral communication, then it's much more, you could collect ideas directly on time on that day, and then you could easily solve the problem or achieve your group's goal. Okay, much more engaging for the cooperative spirit. Another one, useful in secret manners. Okay, useful in secret manners when you're using the oral communication, because you don't have any object that could be your evidence. unlike to written communication. Because if you write something at any point, if someone will be holding that paper, then they could do it against you because there is a concrete evidence. Whereas it is useful in secret manners when you do the oral communication because you're only speaking. You're only speaking, and then at any time it could be forgotten. Okay, it could be forgotten, and you don't have that very concrete evidence. Not unless it will be a recorded one. Okay, and then another one, we have persuasive. Oral communication is much more persuasive because we could express more our thoughts without hesitations compared to the written one because it's there. It's given that you can speak. It's only your thoughts that you need to gauge on, and how you express your thoughts. It's much more persuasive because, for example, when you market your product to someone, it is much more persuasive if you will endorse it personally. Okay, you will speak and speak, endorse the product. It is much more persuasive or engaging compared to the written one. Sometimes, again, it will not be read at all times, and there is no person involved speaking, and without motion, sometimes it's quite boring. Okay, it's quite boring to be on that message and to understand. Compared in the oral one, it's much more persuasive and engaging. Another one, useful in all kinds of audiences. Okay, oral communication is useful in all kinds of audiences because it's just you as the sender who will adjust on how would you address your concern to everybody, that you will not be that is equal to everyone despite of their differences. Okay, you could always adjust on time when you do the speaking compared to the written one. If it is fixed that you write this, no matter what their backgrounds are, it is fixed because it's done. It's done. You're done writing it. Okay, it's there. Compared to the speaking or oral communication, if you commit mistakes, okay, you could change it at any point. Just speak and admit your mistakes and then change it to correct one. And this is much more useful in all kinds of audiences because, again, you could gauge people easily because you are speaking. You are there. Your presence are there. The presence of your receivers are there. So you could gauge at any point in time if they understand what you're saying or not. Okay? Now, if we have the advantages, we also have the downside of the oral communication. What are the disadvantages of oral communication? No legality. Okay? It's said that it has no legality because, again, you don't have any concrete evidence. Okay? It could not be a legal basis because anyone could lie on what the person said because it's just heard. Okay? It was not heard by everybody. Then there's no concrete document or proof that it is there. Whereas in written communication, it's very legal because you undergone the black and white process of the documents. Okay, it's written. At any point, it could be accessed by anyone, and then when they read it, okay, it's there. It's legal. Okay. Whereas in oral communication, there's no legality because the words of people could be changed at any time. Another one, lack of accountability. Okay, there's a lack of accountability because it's, again, anyone could lie. Anyone could lie. Anyone could change their statements. That is why oral communication is very distracting or distractive to people when they do the chismis, pagkakalat ng chismis, paglilibak, okay, or any other negative actions of a person towards others. So we have much more lack of accountability because, for example, when you do the promise, okay, you could promise at any time. Those are just words, okay. It could not be completely said to be true or be achieved without any action. So it is much more lack of accountability because you don't have any proof that the person said it on time and be attached with it. You could recall it because when it's written communication, when you do, for example, when you do the memorandum of agreement, you could recall them or review that to them that they have this promise they need to be much more accountable. Whereas with the oral communication, there is a lack of accountability because the words of people could be forgotten or be changed at any time. Okay, I hope that is clear to everyone. Another one, low reference value. Okay, because you've said it, it's just mentioned, you don't have any reference value at all. You may have a reference value, but again, since that is a spoken, it was just spoken to someone, it could be changed and lied into and be manipulated. That is why it's one of the disadvantage is low reference value, because compared to the written one, you always have the reference. You always have the reference at any point. Okay, this is the document that we write. This is our proof. That's good about written communication, whereas in oral communication, there's not. So you don't have that much of reference only because of, okay, because it was told to me by someone that this is what happened. You could not believe that at all time because it could be manipulated, it could be lied into. So that is why the first one is no legality. This time, low reference value. Another one, greater scope for errors. This is true. There are many rooms for errors when it comes to oral communication, though we feel much more sincerity when we're speaking with someone, but it is much more greater when it comes to scope for errors because people could commit mistakes at any time because they are directly saying the words to someone. They do not have any enough or ample time anymore to think when they utter the words, it is correct or not. Whereas to written one, they could still have enough time and change their papers, okay, just before they finish it in paper. Okay. Whereas in oral communication, they continually do the speaking and then not realizing at some point they commit so much of errors. Easily forgotten. This is true. When we speak to someone, most of the times it is easily forgotten. Why? Because you just said it. Okay? You just said it, and not all people, when they're listening to someone, imagine there are so many people that a person could engage into in just one day. And not all the time that when a person is listening to someone, they could always store it in a long-term memory. Sometimes it's only under short-term memory. So that is why if you don't have any legal basis of your document or written document, you don't have any reference sooner or later when you forgot what you're saying or the information, whereas in oral communication, it could be easily forgotten because you're only done communicating the message through speaking. Okay, another one, not useful for long distance. It is not useful for long distance because you're speaking. Okay, oral communication. It's not that useful because there are some barriers. There are some barriers that may hinder the effectiveness of the oral communication, even though we have this, what we call the devices, the social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the Messenger. It is not that much useful because there are some barriers that may occur at any time. Okay? So actually, this was your activity the last time. So I will be expecting that you actually answered the questions or you imported the answers on the e-class. Again, for a review, our lesson for today in English 11, just a review. Okay, our lesson was we define the oral communication. Again, there are different kinds of communication. Oral communication is just one of them. And then we speak of what is great communication skills, what are the other formal types of communication, oral communication, the advantages. We speak of the advantages and disadvantages of oral communication. Okay? So I hope you've learned something for today. So just study these slides because I might be having quiz orally during our live, or I may just be importing some written quiz in our e-class. So just always be updated and always review your lessons during your free time when you are not doing anything, so that even if we are just in a pre-recorded or live discussion, you're still learning. Okay, you are still learning during this trial times of pandemic. So again, just my piece of advice, always bother to check your e-class, especially our lessons, because all assessments will just be coming from that lesson. Okay, so again, thank you very much for watching this pre-recorded lecture from the very beginning up to the end. Thank you and God bless.